Soya and Nozomi go on a date, and Benika becomes the bad guy. Hello my friends and welcome to another anime review of Planet With, which, again, I cannot stress how much you guys need to be watching this series. The story is absolutely fantastic and filled with so much amazing emotion and beautiful art style. Every single time I finish an episode, I always tell myself, this is my favorite show of the season, and this episode right here delved into some surprisingly thought-provoking concepts. That, and of course, we got some more solid action, so let's go ahead and jump right in. This entire episode right here is all about Benika officially joining the Sealing faction of Nebula, and she is taking this very seriously, and that's because we actually go into her backstory. And what I especially love about this scene is how it all actually happens, with her actually being up in Generalissimo's spaceship when suddenly he creates a sort of holodeck where he's able to create these holographic places for people to go wherever they want, or it quite literally transports them to these places, and in order to get her backstory and to make her relaxed, they go to a hot spring. And of course this means lots of Benika fan service. According to Benika, before she joined Grand Paladin, she was a police officer, and that's because she was actually inspired by a superior officer who was older and more experienced. Essentially, she was in love, and she recounts this story of how they were trying to stop this young criminal who had fabricated a gun, and in the ensuing chaos, her superior was killed. And what's really sad about all of this is that he was shot multiple times and still managed to actually stop this criminal. Now, the reason that this entire scene is so important is that it actually ties not only into her backstory, but into why she wanted to join the Sealing faction in the first place. According to this young criminal who'd never held a gun in his life, when he actually held it for the very first time, he felt invincible. Power that he could never possibly conceive before. And that's, of course, a really great metaphor for the fact that humanity is getting a little too big for its own britches. They're becoming way too destructive, and they finally reach the point where humans are going to evolve, where they start to evolve super psychic-like powers. And Benika knew that eventually she, even herself, would fall prey to this power. Hence why she believes that all of humanity needs to be sealed at this point and can no longer have the opportunity to grow even stronger. The next part of the episode finally starts to delve into the relationship between Soya and Nozomi, and of course, there is something romantic going on here, but Soya is still struggling with a lot of his feelings inside. The fact that he now seems to have no fulfillment from doing anything, the fact that his entire planet, friends, family are all dead, and the only thing left to him is a world which is begging him to defend it against invaders. He's being forced into the hero spotlight, something that he does not want to do. Honestly, the moment where he breaks down about his family in this episode is surprisingly realistic and very heartbreaking, and a lot of that is definitely owed to the voice actor, but the actual catalyst for it, I have to admit, was kind of funny. You see, while Soya and Nozomi were actually going on their date, Shiraishi could not help but want to just keep watching them and wanted to screw it up, so she decides to go down to the planet and confront both of them, and she does so in the guise of her high school self. She actually ends up grabbing onto Soya, and her chest starts to press up against him, which causes him to go insane because he's a hormonal young teenager, but he realizes that that's actually not what he thinks it is, and in a state of complete and utter fear, he pushes her away and actually reveals her true form. Basically, the cat's out of the bag at this point, but this is the moment where he officially puts his stance on the fact that he doesn't want to fight anymore. He has no reason to fight anymore. His battle is completely over. That is until Benika decides to show up out of nowhere, actually riding in her mech atop a giant dinosaur which has a pyramid for a head. Because, you know, Nebula just likes to make a lot of weird drug-induced monsters. This scene for me was awesome because it actually broke my expectations. I thought that this was going to be the moment where he decided to pilot Sensei yet again to fight back against evil. This is when we get the return of the character of Tora, and we actually get to learn earlier on in the episode that those little vials of dragon dust are not actually the source of their power, but quite simply the key to activating their mechs. So basically these humans have actually evolved to the point where they have to require some sort of device in order to unlock their full power and transform into giant robots, or something like that. The point is, Tora is able to actually unlock his abilities, and for the first time since the very first episode, we actually get to see him pilot his mech yet again, and he ends up having a pretty epic battle with Benika, which is really solid, to the point where he actually manages to defeat her and even the giant Nebula sealing weapon as well. While all of this is going on, Soya and all of his friends, including Sensei, Ginkgo, and even Nozomi of all people, are watching this destruction. While all this is happening, Soya is continuing to converse with the people of Paradise, which is taking the form of his brother. According to Ginkgo, the people of Paradise are apparently some ancient race of people which have existed for long periods of time, and they've evolved to the point where they basically don't have their physical bodies anymore, and they can only be seen by certain people. What their actual intent is still a complete and utter mystery, especially because this vision of his brother demands that Soya actually destroys the dragon. Yes, the dragon is not actually dead, and according to him, it's quite alive and hibernating on the dark side of the moon. This is a lot of information to take in for this episode, but I'll be damned if it's not epic. And again, I need to just say, guys, please watch Planet With. It is one of the coolest anime that I've seen in a long time, and honestly, it's one of my favorite shows of the year. That's no hyperbole at all. So, what's the rundown on this episode of Planet With? Another great episode, which is a combination of really great storytelling, fantastic characterization, and a surprising amount of heart. Everything about this episode just worked, and I love the motivation behind all of the characters, especially of Benika. In fact, I think this can be said of the entire series, how this is not exactly a clear-cut, black and white kind of show, where you can say that these guys are the heroes and these guys are the villains. Nebula in particular, the fact that they're an organization which is split down the middle, but not necessarily antagonistic towards each other. They don't want to destroy each other, they just sort of are in this arms race, so to speak, to see who can seal or stop humanity or other races from evolving. It's surprisingly awesome, and I have to admit, I love it. Benika's actual motivation for wanting to join the Sealing faction makes perfect sense. The entire metaphor about people actually losing control of their power and that feeling you get when you actually hold a weapon is totally true. It really is something that I think exists in the primordial ooze of the human soul, and it's something that you're never ever going to get rid of. It's also evident that this is sort of the point where humanity in this series is starting to evolve and use psychic powers, just like Benika in this episode. But the episode also still had plenty of levity, funny scenes between Soya and Nozomi, and of course, lots of fan service from Benika. Did I mention that? I love the fan service. I especially love that I got to see the return of Tora, and the fact that he's able to use his mech pretty much confirms that we're going to see all of Grand Paladin return and probably team up with Soya. But there's actually a lot of twists and turns and directions that the show could go in, and a lot of that has to do with the introduction of the people of Paradise, the mysterious energy aliens that only Soya can see, and why they want him to destroy the dragon. I mean, that seems like something that everybody would want to be involved in, but I still sense something malicious kind of going on here, and it pretty much all but guarantees we're going to see another big epic dragon battle. I have a feeling the finale of Planet With is going to be decidedly epic. Some final thoughts about this episode. I love Soya's reaction to everybody playing a tug of war with him and demanding that he be the one to stop all these bad guys because he's sort of been through this before, but they're not trying to understand his feelings at all. It's not too dissimilar from, say, Shinji getting in the damn robot in Evangelion, but here, honestly, I really understand where Soya is coming from. There's no reason for him to fight, especially as he's constantly being forced into these situations. Yet at the same time, he's definitely getting to know a lot more people on this planet and maybe even gaining relationships with them, like Nozomi, who of course tries to help him out in this episode by protecting him from Shiraishi and saying that he doesn't have to fight anymore. He can simply just run away. But really, it's only a matter of time before he jumps back into Sensei and starts kicking some alien ass. Well, yeah, this episode was freaking awesome. I loved it. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts about it. If any of you guys watched this episode, how are you enjoying where this story is actually headed? Do you have any thoughts or theories about how it could possibly end? What's the deal with the people of Paradise, the dragon coming back on the moon? Will Benika eventually come back to the good side? Is there a good side? Is there a bad side? Let's just start a discussion in the comment section below about one of the most underrated anime of the year. It's Planet With. Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay damn there, baby.